Hello everyone, welcome again to your channel. Thanks for the click. I hope you are doing well. So as you can see, we are still dealing with some issues related to teaching English. And today, as you can see, we are going to deal with ECRIF. And ECRIF is a framework. It is a framework for teaching English or language components. So we have already covered another framework, very common framework, which is the PPP framework or the PPP model. So this is another model, another framework for teaching language items, for teaching grammar, for teaching vocabulary, and so on. Okay, so this is ECRIF. Today we are going to see what these letters stand for, what these ECRIF stand for, and with a very simple example. So we are going to see ECRIF as a framework with an application, a simple example, which is teaching the verb to be. Okay, now let's start with the first one. The first one is E, and E stands for encounter. And when I say encounter, it is to present. Okay, it is to present, and it is the first step in the PPP model, which is presenting. So encounter refers to presenting, so we can consider it as presenting. So you present the language item, the language vocabulary you want to say. So it depends on how you want to present that, either through pictures or text or dialogue, or maybe even sentences to write on the board, like this ones, for example, Bob is happy and students are happy. So here you present these sentences to your student, and students see these sentences, read these sentences, try to think about these sentences, and most importantly, students notice. Okay, notice the language item or the words you are teaching. For example, here student notice is and are, because you write them in a different color. Okay, so this is step number one, which is encounter, which means to provide your student with the new language item, either, as I said before, through pictures, texts, dialogues, or sentences, as you can see here. Number two is C. So C stands for clarifying. So after presenting this, we move to another step, which is understanding. Understanding, which means that student tries to understand the difference between is and are, tries to understand the meaning, tries to understand that this is not this, the differences, etc. So this is what we mean by understand. So student understands the meaning, okay, the meaning or the use, if it is something to do with grammar. So it's student understand the use, understand that this is not that. For example, here student understand that is not are, is with singular, and are with plural. Okay, so as you can see, this is what you mean by clarifying. So student understands. Now let's go to step number 3, which is remember. So R stands for remember. And when I say remember this. So here, what student understood should be transmitted into the short-term memory. Short-term memory. So student transmit what he understood here into his or her short-term memory. How do you think student can do this? Very simply, through practice. So we can say practice. Now, what do you think students can do to practice? Is very simply to complete sentences or to rewrite sentences, to reorder the words. If you give them scrambled words, to reorder to make sentences, or to write, for example, from affirmative into negative, and so on. Okay, so this is what you mean by remember, which means to help students transmit, move what he or she understood into his short-term memory through practice, as I said before, gap filling, sentence completion, or even, for example, to rewrite sentences or reorder words to make sentences. Okay, now let's put this in practice here. For example, clarifying, very simply, student will understand the difference between is for singular and are for plural, okay? Singular and plural. This is just an example. Okay, so remember, students are going to practice, for example, to complete sentences, for instance, with is or are, and also to rewrite the sentences, for example, affirmative into negative, or you can also ask them to reorder the sentences if you give them scrambled words. So these are some activities that you can use with your student to help them transmit what they understood this into the short-term memory. Now let's go to number 4, and it is internalize. And internalize, it is a little bit further than this one, which is remember. And here we talk about the long-term memory. The long-term memory. And when I say the long-term memory, so you help your student to transmit what they understood into long-term memory, not only short-term memory. And here again, they can do this through some kind of practice, very simply, like to complete sentences, information gap, storytelling, role play, etc. So this is something that students can, to complete sentences from their own, to give examples from their own. These activities can help students transmit the language item from short-term memory to long-term memory. Now here again, here in this example, what do you think students can do? Very simply, you can ask them to give examples from their own, about themselves, okay? They can also complete sentences, but this time sentences not only with is or are, but information about their maybe classmate, or information about themselves, okay? So this is by completing sentences, which means here we talk about information gap. Okay, the last one, which is fluency. Now, before we go to fluency, here we have practice and here we have practice. Very simply, in this case, this is something that we can consider as controlled. So this is a controlled practice when you ask students to complete with is or are, etc., to rewrite sentences, to reorder words. So this is a controlled practice. But this one here, storytelling, information gap, role play, this is less. So we can consider it as a less controlled, okay, practice. It is less controlled practice. Okay, now fluency, this is number 5, the last one, fluency. Okay, fluency. And when I say fluency, which means students use the language item or the words you are teaching, etc., fluently, okay, fluently, spontaneously, okay, this is what you mean by fluency. And here again, we can talk about some activities to enhance fluent use of the language item or vocabulary you are teaching. For example, real-life communication, dialogue, discussion, etc. This is a further activity that enhances fluency, boosts in fluency. Here again, you can put your students in this lesson, you can put your students in groups to ask each other questions, to give information to each other, to talk, to converse in a form of dialogues. So here, if you can put your students in form of a dialogue to ask each other questions about family members, about friends, etc. So, and by the way, using verb to be, and here your job as a teacher is just to move around and listen, to check whether students are using the language item being taught or not. Here we talk about controlled practice, less controlled practice, and here we talk about free. So this one is free use, spontaneous, fluent use, okay? All right, so this is what ECRIF stands for: encounter, clarify, remember, internalize, and fluency. This is a very simple example. You can apply it to different language items you want to teach. See you in another episode with another lesson. If you have any question or suggestion, don't hesitate to let me know. See you in another episode. Have a good time and goodbye.